all be in government, unable, and indeed unnecessary for them to agree about anything and to give us the stalemate such as we want. So I want devolution that works, because devolution is a good thing when it works locally, because it gives local solutions. But we cannot go on with 4 more years, and that's the essential thing that's been offered in this election. From all the other parties, they're saying, OK, deadlock in education, OK, underfunding in health, OK, all of those things you criticise, but tell you what we can offer you, 4 more years of the same. Well, TUV is in the business of saying that isn't good enough. We need to change the system to get it to work. And that starts, I say it again, because it bears repetition, with re-establishing the basic building blocks of democracy, the right to have an opposition, the right to vote a party out of government. And if we can't have devolution that works, then what use is it? So I certainly want devolution that works, and I want it built upon those basic premises of democracy.
Pat, thanks for the question. Some text coming in. One says, typical sectarian Jim Allister, the likes of him give the Republican movement no alternative. Another one, however, says, as a Catholic, I think Jim Allister talks a lot of sense. That's from a Tyrone listener. Somebody else, let's see, more text coming in. Mr. Allister says, yes, 10 million for north-south bodies, but what about the 19 million from the south for the cancer hospital and hundreds of millions for roads?
It was 400 million for north-south bodies, and if anyone can point to 400 million pounds of value from the north-south bodies, I'd be amazed, because what they do, their uselessness is legendary.
Just the views of a texter there, Steve in Belfast. Let's find out what's being thought out and about around the countryside, because I mentioned that we'd be hearing about our reporter Rosie Billingham's travels. She's been on the election trail. Keep your calls coming in for Jim Allister of the TUV. And Rosie's been asking if this election's all about the pound in your pocket, or is it just a sectarian head count?
I'm back at the Omagh Variety Market. It's held every Monday here on the edge of town. Now, last week when I was here, a lot of eligible voters told me they weren't going to bother voting. But the weekend murder of Constable Ronan Kerr has focused minds. The killing's been widely condemned as an attempt to derail the peace process, and today the majority of shoppers here are telling me they do intend to vote in the Assembly elections.
All right, thanks very much. I'm just very disappointed in the way things are going. Wouldn't want to see everything go back to that again.
Now, I was here last week asking people if they were intending to vote, and a lot of people saying they weren't going to bother.
We can't give in, we just have to keep going on and try to use our vote.
Go out and vote, yeah, go out and vote, definitely.
And get the politicians to work for us.
Because people doesn't want this shooting. Should be over by now.
You've got to vote. Disgusted at the murder, and I think there's no sense with it.
Disgrace. Fella going out to do his work, do his job.
But you're still not going to vote? That hasn't made...
No, I'm not voting for nobody at all, no. Pack of hooks, a whole lot of them. Supported them all my life and got no thanks for it. Bye-bye.
Now, that's more in line with the frustration I encountered last week here in Omagh. Take a listen.
Gone up from 1 week.
Has me all confused
1 week to the next.
350, 450.
So, John, here you are on your pet food stand. Are you geared up for the election?
Getting a living as best I can at the minute, and politicians don't seem to be able to help out in that respect. So why would you be bothered with it? What do we need 108 people sitting up in Stormont for?
Well, we've got the TUV in the studio. Would you have a question for the TUV?
They're not relevant at this time.
Bring it back. You'll not get your money back, but bring it back, I know.
I haven't given it a lot of thought, election-wise yet, but of course the economy is affecting everybody. We need to look and see how we can stop wasting so many of our resources.
What would it take for you to vote for the TUV?
They need to work together and consult with each other and not always be opposing each other just to score points of each other.
Well, I've just wandered over to the cattle mart here. The cows are certainly making their views known. Farmers, but they're more tight-lipped.
Wouldn't know nothing much about it. Ask that man up there.
So, Sammy, you're a farmer?
Dairy farm mostly.
So when it comes to voting, what are the issues for you?
Well, I wouldn't be very happy with the situation at Stormont. I don't think they've delivered anything very much.
So what would the TUV have to do to get a vote from you?
Well, I think that the TUV they're on the right line if we can get people just to support them.
Stephen, would you have a question for the TUV?
No, not really. We have two strong unionist parties. Do we need to divide that down anymore? I don't think we do. I think we need a strong, united voice.
Joe, what brings you here today?
Selling a few cattle here in the market. Just everybody's talking about cattle being dear. They're a bit dearer, all right, but it's not justifying the way everything else has gone up. These diesel rising costs is just going to cripple this country. No matter about elections, who gets in or who doesn't get in. But it's a big help to see them all at the one table together. I'd be fully for that.
My hearing has gone bad and I don't hear what you're saying. You may let me off and not bother me no more.
So there you are. That's the views at Oma Livestock Mart there. Rosie Billingham out and about. Jim Allister, leader of the TUV, in our Coleraine studio, listening to that. Quite a number of points from that, Jim Allister. A couple of people saying that your party's not relevant.
Oh, one person, don't just exaggerate it, one person saying that. But, are they saying then that it's not relevant to contend that we should have the rights that everyone else has across the world, to have an opposition, to be able to vote parties out of government? Now, if people think that's not relevant, then of course they'll not vote TUV. If they think that education is marvellous because of Katrina Ran, that the water crisis was handled superbly by Conor Murphy, that it is fantastic to have 3 convicted terrorists in our executive and guaranteed places for terrorists in government, then of course they'll not vote TUV. They'll vote for more of the same. But if they are exercised by all those things and think it is appalling that we have devised a system that guarantees parties a place forever in government and you can't vote them out and can't have an opposition, then they will vote for the only alternative party, which is TUV, which identifies those issues and speaks up about them and says that all of that has to change.
Are you worried that some people say they've no intention of voting?
Yes, I think obviously in a democracy, and remembering that the right to vote was bought at a very high price, and it's not so long ago that Sinn Féin's IRA was attacking polling stations when voting was underway. I think it is disappointing that people should be apathetic, but if people stay at home, they'll get more of the same. So they have to ask themselves, do we want more of the same? 4 more years of Katrina Ruan, 4 more years of gridlock and deadlock and squabble and no proper budgetary arrangements at Stormont, education in a mess, waste on all these issues that we've talked about. If they want 4 more years, they should stay at home. But if they want to see that changed, then they should come out and vote for the only party that is the real alternative in that, which is TUV. And in that, they're not dividing unionism. We're in the business of maximising unionism. These are PR elections. Therefore, you can afford the luxury of choice. And we are saying, as some others aren't, when you've voted TUV, you should go down the ticket for other unionists, because we know who the enemy is and we don't want to advance Sinn Féin. And that's why we stayed out of first past the post elections last year, where there was a threat of a Sinn Féin victory. And that's why in this election we're affording people the opportunity to vote TUV and then for other unions in order to maximise,
Mark's
not diminish
on the line about
vote.
unionism. Let's see, he's got a question for you. Hello, Mark.
Good afternoon, Wendy. Good afternoon, Jim.
Good afternoon.
My interpretation of a politician is to find compromise and solutions, and I was hoping that the unionist politicians in this country could find solutions to have one unionist party. And I think we mentioned about voter apathy there, and I think that they're just frustrated about unionists fighting with other unionists. And if the politicians, including yourself, could find a way to have one unionist party, I'm sure that the unionists who do not vote will come back in their droves. Would you be happy enough to participate in one unionist party?
If the policies were policies that could accommodate the views that I have, but I suppose there are different unionist parties. I don't really understand why there's now a DUP and an Ulster Unionist, because since the DUP stole David Turnbull's clothes and adopted all his policies, there really logically and in principle is very little difference between them. But there are unionists who do take a principled stand, who do say that it's wrong to have IRA godfathers in our government, that it's wrong to have a system which pollutes democracy and which denies you the basic rights. Now, those are principles which if unionists can unite upon, I'd be very happy to work with anyone and everyone to try and advance the cause on those.
Okay, Jim, thanks for that answer.
I do come back to the point, by transferring our votes, we can maximise the unionist vote.
Mark, thanks for the question. Jim has a comment to make, and I want to speak to Kieran after that briefly. So, Jim, very quickly to Jim Allister.
Yeah, good afternoon, Wendy.
Hello there.
Good afternoon, Jim. I like a lot of what you've been saying this morning, Jim. The EEC, that's proved itself to be a non-runner, and it's very, very expensive. They've not done anything for our industry that I can see. And as for our government, who were voted in over this St Andrews thing, all I've seen them doing, the DUP and Sinn Féin, is putting their hands in each other's pockets like thieves. They're making money on everybody else's back, and they've done nothing for us. So it's about time that the electorate this time proved themselves. Everybody should be voting to say, you've not done your job, you're out of a job, and give people like Jim Allister a chance.
OK, Jim, thanks for that. And we're going to have to stop there, I'm afraid, because we've got a minute left and we have a minute in which to take the Talkback test. Jim Allister, we've got 6 sets of questions here. They're different colours. If you'd like to pick one, there's an orange, white, red, yellow, blue and pink.
Oh, blue. OK.
The blue question. We've got a minute for this. It's just to find out a bit more about you.
Take the Talkback test.
So how much is income support?
Probably not enough, I would say. I don't know the precise figure at this moment, but it's certainly not enough for many families that I meet on the doors
From
who are struggling.
51 to
to make ends meet.
£65 for a lone adult or single parent. What sort of car do you drive?
I drive an Audi.
And is it economical, good for the environment?
Well, it certainly takes far too much money to put the diesel in it, and it's I think every family across this country, every time they pull into a petrol station, are shocked by the cost of fuel.
Maybe a more personal question. Have you ever dyed your hair?
No, I don't have very much hair to dye, and I've never dyed it.
Okay. Name a candidate not from your party who you'd like to see elected and why.
Oh, of course, I want to see all my candidates elected, so I don't think it's for me to spoil the chances of others.
So nobody else?
I don't think it's for me to spoil the chances of others by declaring preference for any of them.
Okay. And finally, would you say you were easy to live with?
Oh, you'd have to ask my wife, but I'd like to think so.
Okay.
She's been there for 33 years, so can't be that bad.
Well, that's all we've time for, I'm afraid. But Jim Allister, thanks very much for being on Talkback's election call today. TUV leader Jim Allister.